No, listen. I'm gonna put y'all onto something. This is a hot take, but I promise it's true.
This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Hand and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Coming up on today's show, Sean O'Bannon in studio. You're really going to love this, especially if you heard the teaser opening for this. But before we get to that, this week, November 11th is Veterans Day, originally known as Armistice Day, originally made in World War I. And, you know, I'm not a veteran. I'd always wish that I had served on some capacity. I may not be here today, but still, huge respect to all my friends and family that are veterans. Huge respect to people who are actively in the military, regardless of what your political beliefs are. They are in the military to uphold anything and everything that it means today to be a United States citizen. You know, my father retired in the Navy, and you know, let's try to remember what Veterans Day is. And let's make sure we keep the utmost respect for our former military members that, if needed, have taken the oath to put their life on the line for all of our freedoms. This was a really packed weekend. You know, at the last minute, I received an invite from a dear friend, and I saw Predator Badlands. You know, I didn't really so I saw the previews. I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I thought Predator in the movie leading up to the previews looked kind of crazy. It looked like just some dude with an ugly face and bad hair, unlike your traditional Predator with the giant heads and the giant face shields. But then when you watch the movie, you realize what it's all about. And I thought it was actually a pretty good movie. A little goofy and silly, but that's just what we're doing with today's movies. I don't know if I'd say it was excellent, but it definitely didn't suck, and it is worth seeing. We saw it on IMAX, which is really cool. I haven't been to IMAX in years, and I remember IMAX just being this huge thing, and the screen was bigger, but nowadays movie theaters are just bigger in general, and there's a lot of theaters that are just as big, maybe bigger, but the seats were dope, and maybe that's the selling point. You know, anyway, the movie was really great. Went to the Scottsdale Polo Championship again. I think I've gone 3 or 4 times in the last 5 years, and that's through the Arizona AMG Club. It helps when your friend is the president, Mr. Josh Benjamin. Thank you so much for that. My wife went with me for the first time. She had a great time. She says, hey, how come this is my first time going? And I said, well, I invite you every year and you don't want to go because there's always something else going on or you're just not that interested in it. But I think she'll be going back if we go back for sure. So then Saturday night, I went to the warehouse and to one of the events for the members and friends and family. Called the Inflate-A-Light event. Inflate-A-Light, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's this giant cube, or not really a cube, this giant rectangle light box. And they had it set up to where you could do products. You could have headshots. I got a few headshots. There's a headshot coach there, which is great. Headshots are hard. You have to stand a certain way and like move your head forward a certain way and do like the certain thing with your jaw. And then I took the Honda Z. I have enough pictures of the NSX, so I took the Honda Z. Got some really cool photos of the Z sitting on the couch, the Z behind me, reading a magazine, and can't wait to see how that turns out. And then this week, coming up on Saturday, Texas plays Georgia. I know none of you really care, but I care because there's this weird thing in sports, especially college football, and I realize that college football fan is worse. They're worse than diehard NFL fan, especially when you're on X, aka Twitter. And Texas they lost a couple games. They fell out of the top 25. And recently the rankings came back and they're like, oh, we can't believe Texas is ranked 12. How is Notre Dame ranked higher than Texas or Oklahoma or anything like that? Right now, Texas is back in the top 10, but it doesn't matter because they still have to play Georgia, which is number 5 in the country. And they still have to play Texas A&M, which is number 3 in the country. And then in between that, they have Arkansas, which is a natural rival. If Texas goes 2-1 over the next 3, they're going to be fine. So even if they were to somehow have been ranked in the top 5, which you don't do that with 2 losses, they still would have had to go 2-1 out of the next 3 to be in the college football playoffs for sure. So if they win out, great. If they win 2 out of the next 3, they're going to be fine. If they go 1-2, probably not good. If they lose all 3, they're definitely done, and none of this matters anyway. And then finally, I am 1-9 in fantasy football. My team sucked this year. I don't think I'm going to pay attention to my lineups for the rest of the year. Coming up, Sean O'Bannon. So quick story for you. A listener lost a big job, missed the call, never saw the DM, probably because he was listening to this podcast. It happens, and it's fixable. Running a business shouldn't mean juggling a dozen apps and missing opportunities. SparkForge helps you reply faster, capture more leads, and get more reviews, all without adding hours to your day. One simple place to handle calls, texts, and social messages so you can focus on the work that pays. It's like finally putting your business on cruise control without losing the steering wheel. One login, one platform, all under your control. Consolidate your tech in one place to save time, money, and headache. The future is here, and it's powered by SparkForge AI from our friends at Arcus Foundry. Jump into a 30-day trial today by using code HARDPARKED at getsparkforge.ai and stop letting yesterday's tech eat tomorrow's profits. Sean O'Bannon, welcome to Hard Parking, man.
I'm excited, man. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
I know we've been talking about it, haven't made it happen. We're making it happen today. Sitting in front of us. So first off, we're going to hot jump into this. We're going to be trying some Japanese or just some liquors, period.
Yeah.
And inside these, the bottles, I have stuff that's going to like brain control, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So then you're really going to be an open book.
Perfect. Yeah. Sedate me.
I'm going to sedate you. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, not too much to where they can look you up and harm you.
A little bit about myself. I've lived in Arizona for almost 15 years. And I was a military kid, so I moved around a lot. And when people ask me where I'm from, I always tell them Chicago, just because that's where I moved here from. But I think I only lived in Chicago 4 years in reality.
Doesn't make you not from Chicago.
Well, here's the funny thing, too. If somebody's from Chicago, I'm not even from Chicago, right? Well, what part of Chicago are you from? I'm from Naperville, which is it's kind of a more wealthy suburb, right? So I'm not even from Chicago. But I was born in North Carolina and then moved to Texas and then New Mexico and then Chicago and then here. And yeah, I was all over the place. Even then, I didn't really.
So you're from North Carolina?
Originally, right? But what's funny then is we didn't even move more than once for the military. Right. My mom was active duty in the Air Force, so we moved to Texas for one of her transfers, and she retired in Texas. The rest of the time, we just moved from divorced parents being divorced parents, and everything getting crazy. But I was in the pool industry for a long time, so that's how we met. Right, is me remodeling your pool in your backyard, and so I did that for 10 years about, and then I got out of that, and now I'm in medical sales. Best decision I ever made. So I don't know if that's enough.
No, that's good, man. Let's get a pour in, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about that.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Dealer's choice.
So I'm going to give you some of this Shibui 10.
All right.
It's a Japanese whiskey, lightly peated. This bottle my daughter gave me for, I think, Father's Day or birthday or something a year or two ago. I don't drink a lot of it, but it's pretty delicious, and I want you to try it because you told me that you don't really know much about Japanese whiskey. I don't either. But relatively speaking, I'm a genius in this.
There you go. That's what I consider you as. I'll tell you what, too. This is my first time drinking out of a Glencairn. Well, you kind of do the sniff test, right? Just stick your nose
that's
up.
why they're the shape that they are.
Really?
Yeah.
He's giving me rye vibes.
Well, I think what you're smelling is the peatiness.
Okay.
Yeah, the peatiness. So we'll cheers to this Shibui 10.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little.
To finally
Don't
get
break
on the podcast.
There you go. Yeah. Don't break my cups. And then we'll get into your career.
I got to tip that thing way forward. Oh, there's the peatiness. It's almost like burnt wood. And it keeps going.
It does.
What does that remind me of? I had something with
brush fire keeps going.
A brush fire. You know what it was? It was this old lady that I used to go to church with. And her husband were really into like making smoked cheese, right? You try smoked Gouda at the grocery store, something like that. But they were terrible at it, right? So we would eat this cheese, and it tasted like cigarettes. And me and my brother were horrified.
You've just ruined my palate for the Shibui.
Are you getting what I'm talking about?
I'm not, but my brain is telling me I should be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of messing with me a little bit.
I don't hate it though. It's different for sure.
So you were in the pool industry for a while.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I felt was super unique about you was your knowledge obviously not of just the pools, but of the chemicals and everything else.
Yeah.
What's the education path there? Because I look at you as kind of like a chemist.
Yeah, I mean, officially speaking, there really is none, at least in Arizona. The regulations are super loose. But I've always been that way about everything. I'm kind of like an all or nothing person. And I don't know. I don't want to do anything half-assed. I don't want to do anything blind, right? Which is actually why I started, working for the company that I did when we were doing your pool. So to go back a little bit, I I had gotten off my mission. I used to be a Mormon. And so I'd gotten off my mission and I started going to college. And I was in a pre-med program. So I always knew that I wanted to be in the medical industry. And I ran out of money. So I get out. Yeah, I wasn't a great high school student or anything, so I didn't have a scholarship or anything. So I ran out of money. And when I got home, as I went to school in Utah, when I got home, I tried a couple different things. I tried sales for an insurance company. I tried selling shoes. I tried to write. None of that stuff was really interesting to me. And so my brother, who was saving up for his mission, was doing pools. It was just a job that he was able to get, and that the barrier for entry was low. And so, hey, what are you up to? He showed me what you're doing. So I did a ride along with him. I figured, okay, I can do this for a couple of months, and so I did, and it was horrible. Hated it. But I was good at it, and I kind of got good at it quickly. And I think it's because of that kind of thirst for knowledge and doing things correctly that I figured out the chemistry pretty quickly. In fact, my brother, who was better at the mechanical stuff as far as cleaning the pool goes, they called him the net, right? And then they called me the chemist.
That's funny.
And we kind of grew quickly in that company and became kind of the authorities on whatever. They had to start training people and that kind of thing. And my brother finally left on his mission, and I took over his route. I had my route, and then there was another guy who moved up to management. I took his route too. So I started working crazy hours, but I got a lot of practice in and just kind of learned a lot. And but I hated it. Same thing. Like I said, it was horrible. And so I eventually got out of that. I did sales. I sold door-to-door pest control. I sold cell phones at Verizon. I enjoy sales, but it has to be the right product, right? And so anyway.
Not passionate about Verizon?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Still have Verizon though.
Yeah.
So there, but so I my last kind of stop in sales was I started doing real estate. And I did it for a little bit in Arizona, and there was this guy who I was working for who ended up firing me. It was the first and only time I've ever really gotten fired. And so I was kind of sitting there wondering what to do. I had gotten married. And we had our first kid, and she was really young. And I was like, oh, I gotta figure this out. And my mom calls me, who lived in Florida.
How old were you at this time?
I was 22.
Okay, yeah,
maybe a little younger. And so my mom calls me and said, hey, there's this lady I go to church with, and she needs a property manager for this real estate company. I know you kind of have dabbled in that space. Do you want to see what's going on? Okay, sure. So. Lady calls me. She said what she needs. She says, well, if you get your real estate license in Florida and start doing all this stuff for us, we'll give you the world, right? They promised me the world. So, okay, let's try a new place. Let's try something new. Yeah, I got nothing else to lose. So we moved to Florida in Destin, northwest corner.
I know where that
Florida.
is. I haven't been there. I have a friend there. I haven't been.
The beaches, man, incredible. That sand like sugar. Oh God, incredible.
I think you just sold the trip because we're trying to figure out where we're going to go for our next family trip. So Destin it is.
Emerald Coast, man, it's great. So yeah, I did real estate out there for a bit, and what ended up happening was I did everything they asked. Right, got my real estate license. Was working really hard on the property management side. I was getting them tenants. I was getting contracts with new homeowners, and. Anyway, what ended up happening is they never ended up paying me anymore, never gave me any of that world that they promised me. And it was really expensive to live there. Destin's, the real estate's really expensive, and we just couldn't really afford to live there anymore. And so I wouldn't say we had no choice. It does, right? But I wouldn't say we had no choice, but at the time, it seemed like that was, the best thing to do was to go back to Arizona where I had a network and I could at least, leverage relationships to get a job. And so we moved back to Arizona. I had $50 to my name, right? It was me, my pregnant wife with our then second child, and our little girl who was a little less than a year old. I was only in Florida for about 8 months. And so we move into a spare bedroom in my best friend's house, and I swore up and down I'll never work for anybody again. So I took a $2,000 loan out from my mother-in-law and started a pool company because that was the only marketable skill that I had.
Right.
And you want to talk about having to know a lot of stuff. And in Arizona, right, the pool market's super saturated. So I really locked in and learned as much as I could, and just started going whole hog into the pool industry. Built the company up pretty quickly. And after a couple of years, I switched over to construction because the money was better. And I did some smaller projects and mostly kind of low end, high volume stuff. And what made me go and work for Takedown, the company that built your pool, I had one project that was relatively complicated, and I fucked it up, man. I was just I didn't know what I was doing at that level, and so I decided I need to learn how to do things at a higher level, kind of get into the higher end space. But I didn't know what I was doing, so I decided to go be a superintendent for a builder, and hit up the company, and then they decided to hire me. So that's kind of how I reinforced my knowledge of the construction side. And I mean, I think between those two sides, right, the service and the construction, both of them, me wanting to learn the best way to do things, that's kind of where a lot of my knowledge base went in. So over all those years doing all that stuff, I kind of became an expert, and I'm really proud of the knowledge I gained in that industry, right?
Sure.
But the one thing that never changed was it was miserable. I hated doing it, right? Just because you're good at it doesn't mean you enjoy it. I think being good at something increases, the enjoyment of it, but
that's incredibly accurate.
yeah.
I've said that before. I don't want to get myself fired here. You know what I mean? I don't love my job. I sure as hell don't hate it, and I'd be a fool to complain about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of that, but it's not like it's an enjoyable thing.
Do you wonder if every job gets like that eventually?
I do wonder that, because one of the things I always say is do something you love and you don't work a day in your life. And I think that for most people, even some of our most successful friends that are working every day, busting their ass, doing their dream job, they'll all tell you that it's hard work 24/7.
Right.
And the dream is at some point, the money will just keep coming once you've paved the way for yourself. But that's like residual money coming in, but that's such a rare case.
Yeah, people talk about passive income. I feel like it's a myth. Yeah, every once in a while you put enough money into something, but I don't remember the exact numbers, but it feels like if you want to invest a bunch of money and pay out, dividends enough to have a really good living, and let's say $150,000, $200,000, the millions you've got to put in, it's just not realistic for a lot of people. So.
Yeah, I agree. For most people, there's always those exceptions, right?
Sure.
And the exceptions become the rule depending on what it is, the type of sales. Because I could tell you what I want you to do when you leave here today. I want you to go home and I want you to write down and think about your 3 most motivated friends, right?
Okay.
Write their names down, get their phone number, and invite them over to my house next Tuesday night. I'm going to have a seminar here, and I'm going to show you how you can make money in passive income.
Is this Mary Kay?
No, but it's pretty much any other, multi-level marketing, which for most of them, they're actually legit.
Yeah.
But what they don't tell you is you got to work harder than someone trying to build a YouTube channel, which already busted their ass.
Yeah.
So the passive income can be there, but I think it's so few for so few people. It's easy. You can say it's a dream and it doesn't work, and feel accurate with it, because we're all still trying to struggle with shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and going back to the whole do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, I feel like if you do what you love, you kind of stop loving it, right? It gets monotonous. It gets tedious. You start getting all the stress of production. For instance, if...
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. Well, okay, in high school, I was really into music. And I thought for the longest time I was going to be a musician. Right? I played piano, I sang, I played guitar. And in my first semester in college, before I left for my mission, I actually studied music, right? I was on a vocal performance scholarship and all this stuff. And I really thought this is what I wanted to do. And the more that I thought about it, the more I'm thinking, if this becomes my profession, it's not just music that I have to focus on. Now I've got to focus on business, right? I've got to focus on production. I've got to focus on, do people like it? Do they not do? That's going to get stressful. I'm going to end up losing the love for music, right? And I think that's got to be the case with just about everything. Just because you love it doesn't mean it's going to make a good career.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. It's the same thing with me in illustration. I was a big-time sports artist in high school, and that's what I was supposed to be. The stuff that I did best at is stuff I did for myself.
Yeah.
Because it was more passion and less talent, in my opinion. My family disagrees. My wife always says I'm wasting my talent. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just finding other ways to use my talents. Because I realized, especially when I went to college for the first time at Kendall College of Art and Design, And I was going to industrial design, which is the program where you can design cars and things. But also, you know what else you design in industrial design? Shit like this.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to spend 6 months designing the next coffee cup. You know, I have more to offer.
Yep.
And so that's kind of my pivot point of like, all right, I like drawing, I like being creative, but this isn't my future. Because when you do your passion projects for other people, it becomes a job, just like you said. And now it doesn't matter what this painting looks like to me. It matters if my customer is happy with it.
There you go.
And then I got 6 customers lined up. They want a similar painting. I don't have time to do it. Now I'm stressed. But one thing that I talked about previously with another guest, I found this post online, and it's something about, you know, how blessed we are to have wanted all this, how blessed we are to be doing it, how blessed we are to be, you know, busting our ass on our dream. And for a lot of creators, that's kind of where it is. And so that's like the other side of it. But just getting to that side of it where you're like, yeah, shit, this is good. It's so much hard work. 99.9% of the people are never going to make it to that point because there's just so many other things in the way.
Yeah. Well, things like this, you know, doing what you enjoy independently. I mean, you could speak to this better than I ever could, right? But I imagine you've got to do something that makes sense for your audience, but also your audience was kind of built around what you like, right? You kind of attracted the people who were into the same things you're into. So at that point, now you can talk about do whatever you want, and they'll stick around. I imagine, right? Is that the case or no?
If you're Joe Rogan, I think so, right? I mean, you asked me about him off mic earlier, but the thing that I think continuously holds this production back is the fact that it's in the automotive category, because how would it not? It's the non-automotive automotive podcast. Car people want more car talk. And then if you're talking cars, you need to be accurate. You know, I'm a very casual car fan. People think I'm a diehard car person. I am, but not so much where I want to talk cars this entire podcast. I just can't do it. I'm just not as interested as I used to be. The non-car people get confused when we say, check your door jamb. It'll tell you what your tire pressure should be. You know, you don't have to go to the dealership to air up your tires.
Yeah.
And usually when you get them back from Discount Tire, they way overinflate them and you're going to fuck your shit up. So just check that. Oh, that's too much car talk. So in order for me to bring one of those two in, I need to focus more on that content. And I refuse to, because then it's not fun. Now I'm building content for the masses instead of bringing friends in studio or people that I barely know in studio and learning about them, because that, in my opinion, is what's going to make this podcast better in the long run, even if it's not getting me 50,000 downloads an episode. So yes and no.
Do you get a fair bit of turnover from, you know, car guys that maybe are interested in the podcast based on the name, and they're like, oh, wait, there's not that much car talk?
I wouldn't know the answer to that, but my guess is yes. Yeah. And so now the podcast logo that's, you know, in studio, the first one had 2 NSXs back to back on essentially a no parking sign. Okay. So when I, you know, tried to get the trademark, literally it looked like it said no hard parking podcast because the no was crossed out. I'm like, all right, I got to make it more aggressive crossed out to where it says no parking podcast, or hard parking podcast. Sorry. Yeah. But after a while I go, okay, it's not as car centric, too accurate NSXs. It's not Honda centric. Don't want to get in trouble. Change the logo. So then I had my Infinity. Remember the Infinity I used to have, because I sold it.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yep. I had the Infinity on the logo and got rid of the NSXs or the Hondas. After a while, I go, I don't even talk about cars that much. Now it's just me on the logo. Yeah. So I can talk about whatever I want. So now just hard parking is the only draw where someone might think it's more car centric.
Okay. I mean, I think you're interesting enough to keep people on regardless of what you're talking about. And I was looking at it's a mic. From my peripheral vision, it almost looked like a piece of pizza. I was like, what are you talking about food? But it's a mic.
Well, you're swallowing the mic anyway, right?
Yeah. Chevy.
There's that. Yeah. Do it again. Yeah. Do it again. You guys saw that, right? You saw that. That's that. That's that serum I was talking about.
Listen, I got an empty stomach. It might come on quick. Did you ever do that in college? We used to start drinking with an empty stomach because it was cheaper that way. You had to drink less alcohol to get drunk, right? So you ball on a budget. So you don't eat anything.
So you've always been programmed that way then, see? Because if you think about it, in a way, that's your whole chemistry thing coming full circle.
Yeah.
Because I never would have thought about that. The rule is don't drink on an empty stomach because you will get fucked up quicker. Yeah. But you probably want to throw up. But I don't know of anybody who would say because you spend less money on alcohol.
That's what it was, man. Yeah, we're balling on a budget. If you could only afford a 6-pack of beer, I mean, you know as well as I do, on a full stomach, you might get a buzz, right? But you'll get full before you ever get drunk, right?
Right.
3 beers deep when you haven't had anything to eat all day, and you're
buzzing.
Yeah, you're at least pre-gaming. You know what I mean? Then you got to get a shot or two, then you're good and fucked up. Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
Work-wise or period?
Work-wise, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in medical sales now, which is, it's funny. The guy that I work for now, I met in a similar way to you, did his backyard. And
that's how you meet people, obviously.
I mean, that's the only place I ever was.
A little weird and awkward, but it works.
Yeah, I mean, it works. I wasn't doing anything.
Backyard
I was
finder?
working so damn much. Yeah, exactly. I would start breaking into people's backyards and start meeting them that way. Shit, I might get more sales now.
You might, yeah.
You got me thinking. No, so we built up a good rapport, kind of became friends like you and I did. And I was just, things were going downhill with the company that I was working for. And it was kind of out of my control, right? The owner was just being a dickhead. And anyway, I was just kind of talking to him, venting to him about how dissatisfied I was with my job. And looking back on it now, I'm surprised he wasn't worried about the state of his backyard. It was like, well, if you're sick of your job, are you pulling back on mine? But we did a good job. And I think
fired you on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But he saw how hard I was working. I was in the trenches with the guys every day. And this guy, he was paying cash for everything, massive house. He was always in scrubs and he was always home. So I'm like, this guy's got what do you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he told me he's in medical sales and he whatever product he's selling was pretty lucrative. And I told him I had a background in sales, and obviously being a business owner, you get pretty good at sales pretty fast. You have to, or you don't eat. And so the more we talked about it, and I told him how I always wanted to be in the medical field.
Not fentanyl, right?
Good.
Okay. All right.
It was lucrative.
No judge.
But, no, so that's what it was. He was kind of educating me on what he does. And by the end of the project, I was so fed up with what was going on, with the company. He was happy with his backyard, so he didn't care anymore. And he offered me a job. And he knew that I'd kind of always wanted to get back into the medical field. It felt like a kind of a dead dream, right? It was like, I don't have time to go back to school. I had 3 kids by then, and now I'm running this company. And so anyway, it was a great opportunity. And I told you I'm a college dropout, right? So I didn't have a degree. Don't have a degree, and it feels like usually you have to get a bachelor's degree at least to work in that space. And so I got really lucky, and so I'm an independent, and so I carry a bunch of different products, and that helps a lot with being able to pivot. But being in an industry for 10 years, having to learn something new, right, is difficult. But to go back to the whole wanting to learn as much as I can and do things right, that's been a massive asset because I've learned pretty quickly the right thing to do, the way to move in the industry. And so it's been a difficult road kind of getting my feet on the ground. But once I did, man, I mean, it's, my work-life balance is a lot better. I make more money and I get to see my kids, right? I mean, there were times in the pool industry, I was working so much. I'd, leave before they wake up, come home after they go to bed. You do that 7 days in a row, you realize you haven't seen your kids in a week, right? And that's hard. So this has been a lot better. And now I'm to the point where, I've got enough free time and enough spare money. And I'm hoping by, middle of next year, I can start going back to school and studying what I want to study. And really life-changing decision.
Why the motivation then to go back to school? Because maybe the lack of a degree is your barrier to entry in your field to certain things? It's not that. I think this is closer to what I wanted to do than pools, but it's still not what I wanted to do. So we've talked a little bit about my experience with psychedelics, right? That's a big thing for me. And what's starting to come out with these new studies with how these things are affecting things like depression and PTSD and anxiety, it's a really cool space and something that I think is important, right? Because mental health is a big problem in the United States and all over the world, but mental health treatment is dog shit, right? But when we see these highly efficacious outcomes from these kind of therapies, psilocybin is a big one that Johns Hopkins has studied quite a bit, and when you see these efficacy outcomes that are similar to like the polio vaccine in helping with long-term depression treatment, I want to be at the forefront of that. Yeah. And so the degree that I'd like to get, and I swear to God this is a real degree, is neuropsychopharmacology, right? Where you're essentially trying to identify how a drug affects your brain physically, right, physiologically, and you're also trying to identify how a drug affects your psyche, right? Maybe something a little bit less quantifiable, but those are the things that are helping to treat depression and anxiety and that kind of thing. And for a long time, I thought, okay, maybe I want to work in a lab and I want to actually be on the development side of the drugs. But the more that I thought about it, the more I think
administering the drugs throughout a study to try and, work on getting this stuff approved federally and work on kind of building credibility around that treatment modality, I think is way more important. So now I'm looking at, really going back to school hard and becoming an MD and, focusing on neuropsychopharmacology and starting to administer these treatments for studies and starting to get the thing moving forward. So it's a lot of school, but I'm ambitious and I'm motivated, and I think it's going to be worthwhile. For sure.
Are there accelerated programs these days?
For undergrad, there can be, if you can finish a bachelor's degree in 2 to 3 years versus 4.
Yeah.
But then you're taking a pretty advanced or intensive course load. And I still work, right? I work less, but I still work. So I haven't fully figured out all the details, which is why I'm putting it off till probably middle of next year. But I'm getting as much research as I can done. And ASU actually has a really good, pre-med program with biochemistry. As pre-med's not technically a major, but the biochemistry background that's needed to move forward. ASU's got a pretty good program for that. So, we'll see. I'm kind of working out the kinks, but
bet your average pool guy wouldn't be able to rattle off everything you just rattled off.
Probably not.
Right.
Like I said, the barrier for entry is pretty low, man. Everybody and their mother, is able to do it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy to me, especially the chemicals, right? When you're doing service.
Well, that's what I mean. We were out there having a chemical conversation one day. I'm like, this motherfucker is smart as shit.
try to educate myself. But listen, if you combine chlorine and acid, 2 main chemicals that you use in pool service, right? In a big body of water, maybe not a big deal, but some jackass puts them in a bucket to pre-measure them and mixes them together. You get chlorine gas. It's shit they used in World War I as a weapon, right? I mean, you can kill somebody.
Yeah.
But some dickhead can go to Walmart, get what he needs to get to do it, and just go in somebody's backyard and do whatever. That's nuts to me. Why shouldn't we educate ourselves more? Not just pools, but the medical industry, right?
Yeah.
You need to be educated. They always make that joke. There's always the doctor who graduated bottom of his class from, you might have that doctor. You know how many of those doctors I've met? If my grandmother was going through some of the things that these, patients are going through, I would never send them to these. It's nuts.
Yeah. And that's kind of like I mean, it's great that they made it through school, but that's something that people don't think about, right? And there's like, well, a doctor told me this. I'm like, yeah, we were raised to believe that they knew everything.
Yeah.
And the error rate in the medical field is so severe.
Yeah.
Across practices, or my nurse told me this, or this nurse told me that when I was at the urgent care. I'm like, okay, they might know a little bit more, but I can promise you they don't know everything. So that's why people get second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth opinions.
Yep.
And just because your doctor said something doesn't necessarily make it true. It could be that's their belief, or that's their belief based on the stuff that they know, or that's their belief based on the stuff that they know and they don't want to believe, and so they think it should be another way. Like, you never really know when you're getting advice.
Yeah.
And you don't know if they're at the top of their class or, like you said, the very bottom of their class.
Yeah.
And that could be a dangerous thing.
When you get these old heads that graduated in the 80s, right? Medicine has advanced a lot since the 80s. That's a lot
different.
Well, and if they're not keeping up on continuing education, which there's a certain amount that they have to
remain licensed, but overall.
And then the other thing, too, is they might learn something new. But if there's some, guy who's arrogant, which a lot of them are, right? Okay, I learned this new thing, but that's all bullshit. I'm going to stick to the way I've always been doing things as it works. It gets dicey. From a personal passion perspective, I was excited to get back into the medical field and into, pure sales role. I'm pretty good at what I do. And so I enjoyed that. But from a business perspective, I always assumed, going back to pools for a second, in the pool industry, again, because it's so saturated and the barrier for entry is so low, it feels like everyone else is being dishonest. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's how they can stay so competitive. And sometimes, try as you might to be an honest business person, it feels like you've got to get kind of nasty sometimes to be competitive. Right. I didn't like that, right? So looking at the medical field, I think, it's so highly regulated. These guys are so well educated. This is going to be a much better industry to get into, right? You don't have room for a whole lot of dishonesty. Man, when I tell you I've seen some of the worst run businesses and like sleazy people I've ever met in this industry, it's, you don't think about that kind of thing. And even then, I still enjoy it. I love what I do. And it's kind of interesting kind of getting past those barriers, working with these docs. And like I said, a lot of them are arrogant. You get these kind of sociopathic type people. That
absolutely.
Yeah. But it's fascinating to work with these people and around these people and trying to figure out how to move. It feels like kind of a puzzle every day, which I really enjoy. Kind of challenges me.
I don't have to deal with them really anymore because I'm a full remote employee. Or contractor, I guess. But there was a time where I had to work in the hospital or sometimes we'd have to walk over from our IT over to the clinical side and sit down with a radiologist, or we had to communicate with a physician. And there's a whole wide array, just like you're saying. There's the guy who's super cool and open, and you pray that the champion physician is that guy, but sometimes they're an old head. They're going to retire in 2 years. They don't want any of the new technology. Nobody knows anything but them.
Yep.
And then you have the other ones, like I said, there's a whole like room full of guys, and one's an asshole and 4 of them are cool, or 2 of them are an asshole and 3 of them are cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're still learning along the way. And so, yeah, it's for people on the outside, just always, I mean, this isn't really what we're talking about as much, but always seek like a second or third opinion if you have any questions, and don't be afraid to like just question anything.
Yeah.
You know, question everything, because sometimes there's incentives, and it may not be on the doctor level, but it could be on the director level or the hospital level or whatever level. This is a new drug, push it, because we're getting paid to push it and see what happens with it. Yeah. So yeah, my doctor prescribed this for me because they said, my doctor prescribed the Shibui 10 for me that we're drinking right now because they said it's the best thing for Japanese lightly peated whiskey, but they're being paid to do it because what they don't really know is the Shibui 18 that I'm getting ready to pour you is actually a much better thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what's interesting is the Sunshine Act prevents doctors from, being induced to do anything based on financial gain or anything like that. And my primary care provider offered me Ozempic, and he was really pushing it hard. I've lost 100 pounds, and so I figured I don't need it. I'm already on the track. I'm doing really well. What the hell do I need this extra stuff for? And so the guy that I work for, obviously much more educated on the legal stuff than I was at the time, and still am. And I was asking him, why would this guy push this so hard? What is he being incentivized by? He's not getting a direct kickback from the pharmaceutical company. And what he said was, well, at their place of work, right? If it's Banner or whatever it is, and the doc is pushing a drug, no, he's not getting paid from this pharmaceutical company, but he is getting a bonus from where he works for improving your metrics, right? So if he thinks your A1C is elevated and he thinks he can get it down by getting you on Ozempic, no, he's not getting paid from Ozempic themselves, but he is getting paid from the hospital for lowering your A1C. And that made a lot of sense, right? The thing though is if somebody doesn't already have an elevated A, which, I'm overweight, but I'm not pre-diabetic, right?
Yeah.
So what exactly is your angle here? And I guess, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if the guy's getting paid to just lower A1C in general, right? I'm sure it's on an average too, right? So if he lowers mine, doesn't really matter if mine needed to be lowered, but it brings Joe Blow's also down if he's failing to get his A1C down. So that kind of thing is interesting, and it's a really nuanced situation with these docs, but everybody's got a financial incentive to do something. Yeah,
there's a thing, and so I pulled out the Shibui 18. I wasn't joking. A little bit about this. This was given to me by a good friend of mine, Mark Shee of Pride Exhaust in Dallas. And this is the 18-year statement sherry cask. So as I pour this, we're going to have this next.
All right.
But in my industry or my career path, there's a thing called meaningful use. And that basically is sort of what you just described, where
thank you.
For a few years with the EMR that I work on, for those hospitals that have gone live on that EMR, there was a meaningful use initiative, which kind of tracks how they're not necessarily doling out prescriptions, but just the overall care and orders, right? So it's like, okay, does Sean really need a CT head, chest, and abdomen, and why are we ordering so many of them? So then they sign like this a score, decision-making score as well. So it's like if they're landing based on your versus your symptoms, right? If in your diagnosis, if they're ordering stuff that's more with a higher score in line with your diagnosis, then you get more points from that.
Okay.
And it's really trying to cut down on, I guess, laziness and abuse when it comes to ordering. It's like you come in, you got a headache. Well, all right, well, let's give him the full CT or MRI cocktail. It's like, no, let's just figure out if he needs advanced imaging. But it's kind of the same deal.
Yeah.
Where you're incentivized to take better care of how you're ordering this stuff so the hospital gets paid. And if the hospital gets paid, then you're going to get paid.
Yep. Yeah. First off, this I like. This is really good.
So you like the Shibui 18?
Yeah. I was going to ask if it's peanut, but it doesn't taste like it is.
It's delicious, isn't it?
Oh, my God.
It's in sherry cask.
Yeah. It's got like a caramel almost in it. Or butter. Maybe it's butterscotch.
It's delicious.
God, it's good.
This has never left this room.
Really?
So you saw what little
might
was
leave
left
it
in
today.
there. I did all that here after hours, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Nights and weekends, of course.
Yeah. What time is it right now?
It's like 7 p.m.
Have you heard about this Wiser initiative that's starting next year?
Let's talk about it.
So Medicare wants to reduce waste, right? As they should, because I think the spending.
Wait,
is out of
there's
control.
no waste, fraud, and abuse. It's just a political thing,
right? Holy crap! But Medicare wants to start doing these pre-authorizations for just about everything now, which is going to significantly lengthen the amount of time for approvals to happen. So patients are going to have to wait longer to get stuff done, and it's sad that we have to implement something like that. And even as somebody who profits from the sale of these things, I get it. And the whole medical necessity thing is a big issue right now. And I'm interested to see how the medical field changes. Like I said, I'm an independent now, and I work with a distribution group who kind of helps me get the products, and that's the guy that I work for who kind of runs that distribution. But I'm glad, because if I were working for a specific company pushing a specific product and that's all I was qualified to do, dude, I mean, as things change with coverage and Medicare and that kind of thing, I'd be in a bad place. So. Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to have to pivot quite a bit. I wonder if next year I'll be selling the same thing that I'm selling right now.
I had a guest on. Actually, I went to go visit him at his home out of state, and he was talking about his life kind of coming up and doing medical sales with devices, and he worked for a specific company, and he was their top seller. They brought him down for a conference and all that kind of stuff. And the president, and I don't know if it was the vice president or somebody else that kind of controlled the company, asked him, hey, what do you think about our presentation? What do you think about this product? And his response was, I think you're going to jail. And they're in jail right now.
Yeah.
He got out when he could, but it kind of brings it full circle to kind of what they're pushing you. Is it what you really need? Is it legal? What kind of hoops? And then with this new initiative, who knows what's going to happen with that? What are they going to change?
Yeah, ain't no telling, man. Ain't no telling. Well, and on the sales side, that's scary, right? On the provider side, that's scary. On the patient side, that's what I'm really worried about. Is we've started conflating health insurance with healthcare. That's messed up.
Yeah,
I've got a podiatrist that I work with who has this patient who's got these bilateral wounds, right? He's also got bilateral edema. Well, his mom and his grandmother both had to be amputated, right? I don't remember if I said the guy's, but he's 35, right? So they can't seem to figure out these wounds. He's been revascularized, I don't know how many times, and
wow.
Nothing's really working. He's at the point now where the only other treatment modality they have is not being approved by Medicaid. This guy's going to lose his legs, right? He's 35, going to lose his legs, and all insurance is worried about is, we don't want to pay the claim. Everybody's going to make money.
Yeah.
But at that point, especially Medicaid, which is a government agency, right? It's like, listen, man, I know you have the money. You don't want to save this guy's leg. And that's what I mean is that's not health care. That's health coverage. That's health insurance. And they don't give a shit about patient outcomes, right? Well, the doctor's sitting here horrified. Like, I've got the tools to do this right now. But and if the doctor does it without getting paid, he's going to lose his ass, right? So everybody's really in a bad position. And that's the most likely outcome. Is this guy's just going to have to lose his legs and deal with it. It's fucked. It's fucked. So,
and then you take that situation and you multiply it umpteen amounts of times or hundreds of amounts of times.
Yeah.
And that's, they're talking about using AI to help make some of these decisions, these first level decisions. And that would be a first level decision that would probably automatically deny. Hell, they could already be doing that now. It's like when you file a claim for your car, immediately, like, it's going to go to a claims adjuster. But if you answer the question incorrectly with the person taking your call initially, it's not even going to go to the claims adjuster.
It's going to bounce immediately.
It's going to bounce. There's no gray area. It's just, okay, did you notice this? When did you last notice this? 4 days ago. Denied. You have 3 days to report it.
Yeah.
And then you can't change your answer, right?
Well, what's almost scarier than that is Medicare is doing these automated responses things, and they have certain codes, right, that'll ding and say like, okay, that's an approval. Oh, that's a denial. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, I've got a doc, and I won't say any names, obviously, but they're using one code they know is going to get approved, right? But the other code is never approved. And so they come to me and they say, hey, can you, guarantee that we're going to get paid on this? Can you guarantee our reimbursement, whatever it is? And I'm telling them no. Well, the claims are getting paid. Why wouldn't you? I don't really care if they're getting paid. The scary thing is, are they going to come back and take it? right? Because now you're going through an automated system using the correct code. It's dinging it, going to approve you. You're going to get paid. Great. In 4 years, right, when they come for an audit, now what happens? Now you're going to lose all the money. The scary part about that is, let's say it's by that time $1 million, $2 million. That's a lot of money for the doc to lose. Maybe they won't lose their practice. Maybe they will, but they're definitely going to have to cut down on staff. Now other people are losing their jobs, right? They're definitely going to have to cut down on patient care. Now the patient's getting worse outcomes, right? Like all this stuff, it's got this, what do you call it? This cascading effect where everyone else on the bottom of the hill is getting fucked. And it could have been prevented by, number one, Medicare, approving, having a more robust approval, system, maybe people led instead of AI led. And number two, the doctor being more robust in their, knowledge of the process and their desire to do the right thing. And it's just, I don't know, man, we'll see what happens, but I think there's going to be a lot of changes. I'm trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of wild shit going on. Obviously right now, as we record this, we're in the middle of this big shutdown, and it's with the SNAP benefits and what they show on TV, and depending on what your social media feed and your algorithm is going to tell you one story, and then what you look at, it might tell you something else. And at the end of the day, it's like the people are being held hostage between two sides that are just fighting over line items. I was trying to explain to my mother-in-law, I go, okay, well, everyone thinks it's this thing, but it's really this thing, and it's also this other thing. So Group A says, okay, here's a list of my demands. And then Group B goes, okay. They go down the list. They go, item 8, item 10, item 12, and item 14, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So we're going to cross that out, and we're going to give it back to you. And we want to do this, but you have to accept it. And so Group A, the first group goes, nope, we don't want to do it because you crossed out our items. And that's really what's going on here between both of these sides.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the administration gets blamed for it, because it's under their watch. At the end of the day, it's under their watch.
Right.
But the reality is the administration themselves isn't the one making the choice. It's all these people in Congress that are still taking paychecks and playing with people's money. And on top of that, the reality, and I've been saying this for years, multiple presidents ago, we know this. There are people that are abusing the shit out of the system.
Yes.
And I've had a good conversation with Wes, my buddy Wes. If you want to forgive my student loans, I make good money. My wife makes good money, but if you want to pay that shit off, I'm not going to be like, nah, man, we make good money. We're just going to pay it.
Yeah.
No, we're good. Now you can give it to somebody else who needs it. No, hell no. I'll take that. Right.
Oh yeah.
And it's like if you give people handouts, they're going to take them. Few people are on such a moral where they have so much money. They're like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. So if you give me money to pay the rent, like in the event of like a COVID era thing, right? If you give me a stipend, if you say here's $2,500 to, and we don't qualify for half that shit anyway, but there's a lot of people who do qualify for it. They get the money and they don't need it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember commercials that would say, hey, bring your check in and put it as a down payment for a new car. And it's the same thing with tax season. You hear, bring your tax money in, buy a new car. Or I have friends on social media or people I see on social media. It's like, all right, I don't need the money. I'm going to buy a new bumper. I'm going to buy a new body kit. I'm going to put this down on a set of wheels. It's like,
listen, man, pool guys were eating good around COVID.
Right.
Getting those stimmy checks. I'm telling you.
Right. That's the waste part. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. You're giving it to me. What do you want me to do with it?
Yeah.
So then that's why, the whole point in all that is everybody that's on assistance people need to be vetted more. Yeah. And people need to be checked on more. I don't know have you ever had to file for unemployment?
No.
I have. So when you file for unemployment, you have to, whatever state you're in, you have to sign up with the state. And then you have to check in every week or two. So when you send in I haven't worked in the last 2 weeks, where have you applied? Have you refused any jobs that have been offered to you? That's all the shit you have to do just to stay on unemployment.
Right.
But you don't have to do that shit when you're on a lot of these government assistance programs.
True.
And they need to implement that stuff to kick the lazy motherfuckers off. And so the people who really need it can stay on.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is people being vindictive too, right?
There's a lot of that too.
Me, I'm going to fuck them.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too.
Why don't I take it? Listen, I've been guilty of that, right? I was on Access for a lot longer, which is, Medicaid for people who aren't in Arizona, but I was on that for a lot longer than I needed to be, right? Because, you do your write-offs and whatever it is. And so it's like, as far as the IRS is concerned, I only make $20,000 a year. I got a family of whatever, so I can get access. Why wouldn't I? Right? They're fucking me. I pay my due, right? So,
Yeah.
anyway, so
It's just what people do.
Yeah,
And the reality is like people who understand that, people like us can see that. And at least we know it, we acknowledge it. So then we're not so as resistant or so angry when it's like, oh shit, finally, the free meal is up. But it was a good ride.
It was a good ride,
But for people who refuse to see that, they're like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like, is it though?
Yeah. Were you getting more than you deserved anyway? Maybe it's time to start, paying the piper. You get used to a certain lifestyle though.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of it is, people want to keep as much of their income as possible. Why not? Right? You tell somebody you make 80 grand a year. Well, that's gross. What do you actually make?
Yeah.
Right? They want to keep as much of that as possible. And if they can, why wouldn't they? And here's one thing about the United States that I'm not crazy about is I feel like we pay our fair share in taxes. Other countries pay a lot more in taxes, to be fair, right? But
a lot,
involuntarily. But those social safety nets, I think we get some of them here, but a lot of them, housing is a perfect example, right? I think in order to get, low income housing or whatever it is, it's not an incredibly easy process, and more people get denied than I think people realize.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare is another one where it's, you can get Medicaid, but the income threshold is kind of unreasonable, right? Like it's basically unless you're homeless or you work at McDonald's, and even then McDonald's now, just to stay competitive in the market, might be paying too much for you to qualify for access. So it's like technically these things exist, and trust me, there are plenty of people taking advantage of them. But I wonder if people would be incentivized to take as much advantage as they did if we had more of those social safety nets. And if we've got to pay more in taxes, it's a hard math problem, right? It's like, well, if you pay more in taxes, are you really keeping more of your money than, if you had to pay for everything out of pocket? Groceries cost an arm and a leg, rent costs an arm and a leg, mortgages cost an arm and a leg. Do you remember when people used to say your mortgage is going to be cheaper than your rent? That's not even the fucking case anymore.
Yeah. The rents are so out of, we couldn't buy now.
Yeah.
If we wanted to, it just would be ridiculous. We'd have to pay out the wazoo.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. But you're right on all those things. And it's like, well, as far as taxing, right? Paying your fair share of taxes. Like we get taxed, but then there's also the consumption tax, which is what a lot of countries have. We don't have a consumption tax here, where they're not charging these people based on their income. They're charging them based on what they use.
Right.
So if you travel abroad and you buy a Glencairn and you look at the receipt, there's a tax on there, and it's not a sales tax; it's a consumption tax, and it replaces it. So, that's something that way you're taxed for what you want.
Yeah.
Not what you make, and we can't. I don't think we can survive with that because we're not made up that way, but a lot of other countries are.
Yeah. If we were to change any of that stuff, there'd have to be a lot of infrastructural changes. A lot of infrastructure.
Yep.
It's just, I don't know if it's realistic. But to your point, like I was telling you, I'm into these model kits, these Gundam model kits, right? And they're all from Japan.
We're about to pivot to Gundam and nerdism.
There you
Let's
go.
do it.
Look, this is a perfect segue, right?
It is.
So,
yeah.
But they're from Japan. So when I'm buying them, depending on the retailer, I got to pay a tariff.
You go to Hobby Link's Japan. You buy
I
stuff
love
from
Hobby
them?
Link.
Yeah,
I love Hobby Link, right? And it's not always a direct tariff on the receipt, but the price of the kit goes up because the distributor has to pay a tariff or whatever it is. And at first I'm annoyed, but also it's like I could just not buy the kit. I don't need it, right? So it's like at that point it's like that's the price to pay, right? So I can bitch and moan about it all I want, but at the end of the day, it's like it's not necessary. And so those are the kinds of things that I think it's easier to kind of swallow the idea of paying the extra price. But anyway, we could talk about the
no, but you're 100%
stuff,
right, and that's one of the things I've always said. If you want it, you don't care.
Right.
If it's just an ideal that pisses you off, now you care.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this for our NSX event, NS Expo. We're trying to keep the cost down, but if the cost goes up for that specific location, that's not 400 now; it's 420 or 425. That's not going to stop anybody from doing it.
Right.
They're still going to buy it. People are still going to buy tickets. People are still buying Jordans. People are still buying. If you want it, you'll pay extra for it.
Yeah.
It's the same like we've been drinking this liquor, right? This store has it. I'm used to paying $200 for it. I'm not, but I'm just saying as a point.
Yeah.
But now I'm hanging out with you. We're going to a party tonight. This other store is the only store that has it, and now it's $280. Oh my God, dude, that sucks. But we want it really bad, so we're just going to pay it.
That's how it goes. As you pull out your wallet, man, fuck this. I can't believe, and you pay for it anyway.
So behind you, the mini rear-wheel drive Kyosho remote control white NSX, right?
Yep.
It's so I was at a car meet, and I'm like, oh, cool, they have this cool NSX. It's at an RC shop. And I go, I want that one. So I'm standing in line, and there's like 30 people behind me, right? So I go to check out, and they're like $240, whatever it was. I was like, fuck! I thought this thing would be like $49. Yeah. But I wanted it, and I bought it anyway.
Yeah.
So that's one of those deals. It's the same case. So your Gundam model kits.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Gundam and what got you into that. We've had a few conversations about just anime and things in general.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here today. It's not to talk about consumption tax and none of that shit.
Yeah. Talk about the fun stuff. I've always been into Gundam since I've always been into anime, right? And when I was a kid, me and my brother would get on Toonami. We watch Gundam Wing. We watch Eureka 7. We watch.
No, by this point, like 90% of the people that were watching or listening to this podcast have already tuned out because of our last conversation.
Right. But the cool ones.
This is the goal. The cool ones are still here. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I've always been into that stuff. And, mostly it was watching the anime and playing the video games, right? Every once in a while you get an action figure for Christmas or something that's cool. But I don't know that I was into the idea of building models until very, very recently. But I do remember this one particular one, and I don't know if it's useful to say the specific name. Who's going to know what it is? But it's the new
Somebody's
Gundam,
going to know.
Right? Yeah, it's the new Gundam. And man, that thing was sweet. The design of it was rad. And I saw that they made a model of it, right? And I was probably 17, 18 at the time, and I was like, that one. If I get into this at all, I'm doing that one. And obviously, time went on and I didn't do it. But I'm trying to remember exactly what made me.
Do you feel like a kid again with all these?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. You almost get embarrassed. Like, I play with these, plastic model kits, these toys, right? And everybody, what the hell are you doing?
They're not toys.
Yeah, they're not toys. They're models.
They're collectibles. They're models.
The way that I always justify it is I say, your grandpa built trains or he built Mustangs, whatever, and that was cool, right?
Yeah.
I've got a giant robot piloted by a child soldier. You tell me what's cooler, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd be lying to you if I said I remember exactly why I finally decided to pull the trigger and buy a kit, but I did. And dude, it's addictive. It's relaxing. Right. It's challenging. And then by the end of it, you get a cool looking thing. Here's the funny thing. It's not an action figure. It really is. It's a model. You can't play with them. They fall apart. So you do this whole build. Yeah, man. I mean, you put, 20 hours into a kit or something like that, and you slap it up on the shelf and just stare at it. That's all you do. So on the surface, I think when I think about it, it's like, this is stupid. But at the same time, I don't know. There's something gratifying about it. And being into the franchise in general, too. It's like, I grew up watching this thing. Now I've got it on my shelf. I get to look at it every day. It's cool. I really enjoy it. It's addictive. That's a problem.
Well, it's like the Robotech stuff I have over there, right? Yeah. I mean, I have these two up here, the Huck G Robotech Macross stuff. And it's like, why? They're impulse purchases. They're cool.
Yeah.
Zeke, the oldest of the grandkids, comes in. He points at that stuff, and he's like, "Oh, this is really cool." And you have small kids, and you know what that really means. It's just like, I wish you could take this out and play with it.
Yep.
The other day he's looking at one of my NSXs over here. He goes, "Oh, man, I wish you would take that out. That way it would be the same as the other ones." And like, not 30 seconds after that, he's out there like just launching these things off the loft.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, it's staying in the
scaring
box.
the hell out of you. Yeah. Yeah. My youngest is he's 2. And he's fascinated by these things, and he knows the word Gundam, and he'll grab them.
Cool.
Terrifying when this mother.
Do you have a case like that glass one over there?
I need to get an enclosed case. What I've got now to keep him away from.
They're not airtight, by the way. So you get all that shit in there collects dust.
Which now here the dust is bad, but now I've got a floating shelf, so it's high up where he can't get it. So, but yeah, I mean, for a while he was terrifying me. But just last night, my oldest, she's 5. She's gonna be 6 soon. She just built her first one. And she loved it. Didn't need any of my help. We had done one together where I mostly did it, and she's watching. But now she was ready to do her own, and she did it all by herself, and she's thrilled about it. But it's a small. They call them SDs, right? It's a smaller one. They're a little more stout, right? And so she's running around the house with it, playing with it, and posing it, and all this stuff. And I'm like, thank God, it's not one of mine, right? But I mean, it holds up well. But she was stoked about it. So I'm excited that my kids are starting to take interest in what I take interest in, right? And it should
exciting.
It should be both ways, right? I take interest in what they're interested in. As they get older, I will. But yeah, it's cool kind of sharing what I got into growing up, and so my poor kids are going to be nerds, But
so looking over there, right?
Yeah.
Zeke's like, oh, especially the brown one, the VF1D, the orange and tan one over there, I guess. It's like, oh, I want to play with that. It's like, dude, that thing has like points of articulation. There's no way that thing will be busted in 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
No shot.
Now, is that a model or you bought it pre-built?
No, those aren't models. Those are actually all three of those. I can change them into all three modes.
Okay. In Robotech, do they call that Gerwalk mode, or is that just for Macross?
It's Gerwalk, yeah.
It is Gerwalk. That is the weirdest looking thing, but the more I look at it, the more I'm getting into it. I actually thought about you. Bandai just announced a couple more Valkyrie kits, the VF1 Valkyrie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm getting that for Jay for Christmas. As a model kit. You got to put the time in.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in here that were gifts from other people. So, if you can afford it, you hook it up, and we'll put it over there in the case.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, all of those except for the one in the back corner that a friend of mine bought for me. He found it at like some sort of a thrift shop or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he brought it over. Did you get a chance to get into the Macross?
I haven't watched any of it yet, so I'm finishing up a couple Gundam series that were in my backlog.
Like 3 or 4 months ago.
It's on the list.
That means it's not going to happen, which is cool. I get it.
It took me a couple months for you for me to finally watch the Transformers thing that you told me about, and I've already forgotten. I got to watch it again. I think what 2 more Gundam series in my backlog, and then Macross is up next. Which I think I'm going to start with Macross versus Robotech, unless you think something different.
It's up to you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone through the original Macross. I'm a Robotech kid. That's what we had here in the United States when I was little.
Right.
And Macross, I guess for the critics, wasn't introduced to us for years, just because it was so hard to get. Right.
Yeah.
And then Harmony Gold, not to go down that rabbit hole, but the people own the rights to Robotech.
What a crazy story.
They're very litigious. I've been there. I've been to their studios.
Really?
On Sunset Boulevard in California. They invited me there, and I got a tour of it, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
And now, I don't want to say I'm friends with them, but I do have their numbers in my phone, and I have at times texted their creative director, Tommy Yoon, to be like, hey, man, someone's making an illegal copy of my car.
Yeah.
And he's blown them off the face of the earth pretty much.
Really?
Yeah.
So your car, was it officially licensed, that livery on the NSX?
No, that's a custom design. So you don't have to officially license a custom design.
Yeah.
That was me that designed it. But, as a super fan, it kind of carried on. It was at Anime Expo in 2018. And then Tommy Yoon, Robotech always has a Robotech panel. So then Tommy came over, and I got a picture of him sitting in the car. In fact, I think it's on a poster somewhere or a picture somewhere in here. But he was sitting in the car. And then when I went to the panel, they're like, yeah, somebody here has a car that they, did in our livery. And I kind of went like this in the background, and I just became kind of friendly with them. And so it's not officially licensed. In fact, the funny thing is they don't like me when they post it, because they still post it, which annoys a lot of people, and I get it. But when they post it on Twitter or X, they always say VF1. They refuse to say VF1S.
Okay.
I don't know if that's for licensing purposes, but it is a VF1S NSX.
Right.
Which is my license plate,
Okay.
But they refuse to call it a VF1S.
So obviously I know a lot more about Gundam than I do about Macross Robotech. So VF1 is the Valkyrie, right? What is the S?
Skull Leader.
Okay. And that's just a particular, okay.
Skull Squadron.
The Valkyrie, that's a mass-produced unit?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's just like our, military jets here.
Yeah.
It's all their jets are all Valkyries or Veritechs in the Robotech world, just like we had the F-14 Tomcats and everybody flew an F-14. Everybody flies an F-15.
Do they have like the one-off? So in Gundam, you have the mass-produced units like the Zaku and the Goof and that, but then you have the Gundam, which there's only one. You have multiple Gundams, right? But that particular model, there's only one, right? It's equivalent to like a nuke, right? You send that in, and that's when you got to get shit done, right?
Yeah.
Do they have that kind of thing?
I would say
Macross
no.
Robotech?
What they have is like that one that's in Gerwalk mode is a VF1D, which is actually a 2-seater. It's extra space on the inside. Sure. So the VF1A, VF1D, and the VF1S. I want to say this, and VF1J. Right. Okay. So the white and red one is a VF1J, and their heads are different. So their lasers are different, but they all get equipped with the same payload or armament. They all can have this super with the big old jets on them so they can fly into space.
Okay.
And you'll see when you start watching it, like all of them are capable of that. There are some that have satellites on them, but maybe they're special.
Okay.
But there's not like we got to send the heavy hitter out there. What they do is they just equip them with their this is very nerdy, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. they have their super strike mode is what it is.
Okay.
And so they have super strike armor, and so technically all of them could be equipped with that, and it's just one wearing like a shit ton of armor.
Okay.
But it's the same thing.
They have something similar in Gundam, but again, it's not mass-produced stuff, right? You get a full armor Zeta, double Zeta,
Right.
full armor, right? So, okay. Yeah, I'm interested to see the parallels, man. I'm excited to watch it.
And they just have what they do is, and I don't know how it is in Gundam, but I'm assuming there's different mech.
When
So
you
if
say
you're in
different,
the army, right? So there's different mech. It's not just the Gundam wings or the Gundam whatevers.
Right.
So they have like tanks and they have like
yeah.
know,
It's the same.
and
it's
they're
the
all
same
being
way.
piloted by people that just do different things.
Yeah, right. Like in the original Gundam, you had the gun tank, gun cannon, GM, and those are
Sure,
those
yeah.
mass-produced units, like I was talking about. And they make them in the tens of thousands or whatever it is. And the Gundam is the one that's can wipe them all out. But even then, they have specialized versions of certain units, right? Char is the main villain of the original Gundam. He's got a specialized Zaku that can compete with the Gundam, right? So it sounds like in some ways it's similar.
In the Robotech universe, or the I would just say Macross, not Robotech, period.
Okay.
But in the Macross universe, because there's so many different ones, right? I'm sure in one of the iterations of Macross, there's probably the super whatever fighter or whatever.
Is there one whole continuity throughout the whole series, or is it just, are they all, what's the word? Siloed. I'm thinking of
So Macross,
yeah.
they're broken up. It's
All of
almost like DC Comics.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's version of Batman, everybody's version of Superman, everybody's mini story that doesn't have anything to do with the next artist or whoever's mini story. And it's because I remember watching the history of Robotech.
Yep.
Macross is the same deal. Like
Okay.
the people on the back end of the studios own the different rights. Different artists go to work for different houses because they weren't paid or they want to get paid more.
Right.
And there's a company called Big West that's always been fighting with Harmony Gold, and so. But what makes Robotech great is they just took 3 different animes and they smashed them all together.
Which is nuts they were able to do that.
And they added extra episodes to the first generation in order to meet the requirements of American television back when they were doing it, which isn't even a requirement today.
Yeah. Yeah, the syndication rules and that kind of thing.
It was the syndication rules, yeah.
You'd sent me that video and I watched it, and a lot of it went over my head. I feel like what I need to do is I need to watch the series now and then go back and watch it again so I get a full appreciation of what's going on. What Transformers got involved, there were toy licensing deals, and it was, what a story for that time.
Yeah, because when you're a kid, none of that matters, right?
Right,
You want to
exactly.
watch the show, watch the cartoon, play with the toy.
Yep.
And when you're an adult, you realize it was never about you as a kid. It was all about selling toys.
That fucks me up, man.
It
Right?
fucks me up too. Everything you've ever, it was never about the TV show.
Yeah,
It was
it's all about
always about
merchandise.
selling the toys.
Well, you learned that with Disney too. Do you see The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
You get Grogu, little baby Yoda, right?
Mm-hmm.
People called him. And you find out that it was purely a merchandising opportunity, right? They didn't write him because it made the story better. They didn't put him in there because it was purely like, oh, we're going to sell toys of this. And sure as shit they did, right?
Yeah, you just blew a lot of people's brains. I didn't know that, but I
Yeah.
haven't looked into it, but it makes perfect sense.
But that's a lot of stuff. Pokemon, right? Pokemon, the video game came first, and they made the anime after it. And what did they start doing? Releasing toys and plushies and everything. Increased video game sales. I mean, all this stuff that we grew up with as kids that, as weird as it sounds to me, I feel like in a lot of ways it shaped me as a person, right? Just, anyway, to find out that it's all for a merchandising opportunity for a multi-billion-dollar corporation, it's kind of like,
I was used.
that's the thing, right?
I was used.
Yeah, it messes with me.
For me, I grew up in the Transformers G.I. Joe era, and I always assumed, G.I. Joe to me was always just either a separate episode or a continuation of a few episodes.
Yeah.
But then when you start looking at the history of the G.I. Joe cartoons, all it was a bunch of mini movies that were broken up into episodes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
With anime, it seems to be the opposite, right? You have an anime that gets released, 50 episodes or whatever it is, and then they make movies afterwards in order to condense it.
Yep.
Which I imagine the idea is with people who want to get into something that's years old, they don't want to, start from the beginning. People got jobs, right? I'd rather sit for 6 hours, watch all 3 movies, and get it condensed down, right? So, yeah, it's.
What's your favorite anime that you're into now, or just overall? Because my answer is going to be different because I don't really watch it anymore, and I don't have anything against it.
Yeah.
I just don't have time, and the stuff I find that when I. Like, there's one called Arcane, which I heard is great. And I don't even know if you can really call it anime because it looks...
Is that the League of Legends thing?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know
It's-
because I never
it's-
was into League of Legends, but I think one of the big ones has something to do with League of Legends.
Yeah, I know Arcane is. There's a League of Legends
people
show
say it's
called
excellent.
Arcane. I've heard the same thing. I haven't watched it because similarly, I'm not really into League of Legends. But as far as anime goes, dude, Full Metal Alchemist is fantastic. Everybody knows that one. There's another one called Steins Gate. You ever seen Steins Gate?
No, I don't think so.
That's got to be the best portrayal of time travel I've ever seen in like media in general. I'd highly recommend. It's a slow burn. I don't know if you like that kind of stuff, but man, the payoff at the end is fantastic. That's a really good one. Right now, I've actually kind of taken a little break from anime. My girlfriend's into reality TV. We've been watching Jersey Shore. I'll tell you what, it's fascinating watching these people's lives fall apart.
Get out of my studio.
Oh man, have you ever seen any of that stuff?
Unfortunately, yeah, because my wife loves it.
What is it about women into reality TV?
I don't know. They say they like the drama, but I think it, controversially, I think it kind of starts shaping them a little bit because
I can see that.
They want the lip jobs, they want the BBLs, they want this, they want that, and that's all these. Because she watches not necessarily Jersey Shore because it's a little older one, but like the 90 Day Fiance, the Love Islands, the Real Housewives, the fill in the blank.
Yeah,
and the difference of because she's like, you like him because I was like, well, that's what you watch, so I always pay attention to everything that's going around me.
Right.
It doesn't mean I like it, and I'm not sitting there eating popcorn watching it. I might be in the kitchen or I might be in the bedroom doing something else on my phone.
Yeah.
But it's such toxic television, the Real Housewives. I mean, I'd rather they watch the Kardashians, which I can't stand either, but I have nothing against the Kardashians. That type of drama, it's rich people having rich people problems.
Right.
But I can see how some of those problems are relatable.
Yeah.
But when you have a bunch of well-paid, because people get paid to do these shows, and they're just sitting there arguing and bitching. Bill Burr has an excellent, a small comedy skit about that. He's talking about the WNBA, and he brings in what sells tickets or what ratings. And he talks about the Real Housewives, and he's right. All they do is they get paid to sit there and break each other down about what they look like or what they don't have or how shitty their husbands are.
Yeah.
But to me, that's toxic television. At least with these Love Islands and these 90 Day Fiancés and these Love is Blinds, you're watching people meet and fall in love.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the whole princess meets the prince story.
Yeah.
So I guess I understand that. It's still annoying to me, but it's a different type of annoying.
I think that kind of stuff, it loses meaning after a while because, Love Island is a perfect example. Right? It's a dating show where these people are getting on. They're supposed to meet the love of their life.
And they're not just people. They're these very young, chiseled men and these 8 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 women.
Which will, sidebar, you look at these people long enough and you realize they're not as attractive as they seem.
It's funny you say that because it's the initial hit. It's the initial hit.
Yeah.
Because we've all been places, right, where you see someone, you're like, oh my God. And after a while, you're like, yeah.
Your face is kind of
versus a
wonky.
slow
You got
burn
this
where
thing
it's
with
like,
your eye.
she's kind of cute. And after a while, it's like, wow.
How much better is that getting another personality? Well, to that point, and this is what I was going to say is these people are narcissists. Let's call a spade a spade.
Right.
And I think what happens
100%.
is, right, even if they find love, shit ain't gonna last.
Yeah,
right.
No,
So I'm watching this and you get invested in their love story and all this stuff, but it's like, what's the point? Halfway through the season, I know, right? Like, they're going to walk off the island together. Cool. But they're going to last for 2 months on the outside and then break up. And it kind of loses its mystique, right?
Or Sarah's going to end up hooking up with Joey on the night where she was supposed to hang out with David.
Yeah.
And then, they're going to, you have all those breakups and it's like, oh my God.
And then Joey's mad at Sarah. Y'all just met 2 days ago. That's what's funny to me is these people fall in love so quickly, start throwing out the L word. It's like, man, on the outside, you would have never. Yeah. So
it's the summer fling. It's the summer camp fling effect.
Yeah. And you almost have to suspend your disbelief to get through the rest of the show.
We've been talking about this for 5 or 6 minutes. I think it's hilarious. This is going to be the clip. This is going to be the viral clip that's going to take this podcast to the next level.
Talking shit about reality TV.
Talking shit about reality TV. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's fascinating sometimes. So, but I will admit, now I'm kind of. It's good. I really do. I enjoy it. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe I enjoy watching people's lives fall apart. But once we're done with this, which I'm kind of antsy about it, we gotta watch Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, which I think you might enjoy. It's much more kind of grounded and gritty and realistic, and I don't know. So anyway, once I finish that stuff,
I can't imagine not
Macross.
liking any of them. I just have yet to start any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. They're slow. And a lot of them have similar themes. I feel like if you've seen one, you've seen a lot of them, right? They have, minor nuances and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's about child soldiers fighting war. War is bad. What are the ramifications of war? You know what I mean? But the different settings and the nuances of the characters keep it interesting. I do. I think it's a great franchise. And there's hardly a bad one.
Do you know if there's Gundam parallels to what's been going on in the real world when they're making them? And I ask that because, one of my returning guests on here, Nick Kingsley, was telling us, and a lot of people knew this, I didn't, but about the beginnings of Godzilla. He was weirdly very well educated on the beginnings of Godzilla. And do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Godzilla.
Yeah, like the MonsterVerse and all that stuff of Godzilla.
No, I mean, I know you know what Godzilla is, but the origin of Godzilla came out of the atomic bombs.
That makes sense.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, and so Japan was forbidden to necessarily talk or write about that stuff, so they started creating these stories, and that's why Godzilla. And so I wonder if there's some sort of parallels to what's going on in the world.
Going on right now?
Because maybe not right now, but maybe originally, because the Japanese culture, from what we've learned, likes to tell stories
about their trauma.
Through trauma.
What's interesting about that is, did you ever play Final Fantasy when you were younger?
I didn't.
Massive trope in
obviously know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like on Final Fantasy 700 or something right now.
So, yeah, I think they just finished 16 was the last one they released, which is great.
That's crazy.
But what's interesting about that is it kind of introduced, or at least popularized, this trope of killing God. Right? That's the idea. Is you start off as this humble farm boy, and then you move throughout the story, and by the end of it, you're killing God. And people make jokes about it now. I was watching this video. I'll have to try and find it and send it to you. You might find this interesting, but it said something about, and especially Final Fantasy VII, which is the most popular one in the franchise, right? The corporation that you're fighting against, right, is kind of environmentally unfriendly. They're destroying the earth, and then by the end, you're killing God, who started, working for this company. And anyway, the allegory that I guess it was trying to get across is number one, saving the environment from corporate greed. But number two, the fact that this corporation created this monster that ended up becoming God. I guess it's an allegory for these massive corporations kind of, what's the word? Subjugating people's freedom in Japan, the work-life balance and that kind of thing. The work culture over there is like horrific, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And that's their version of kind of letting out their anger. And so, yeah, I think with Gundam in particular, actually there's one of them called Gundam 00, and the main character is supposed to be Middle Eastern, right? And so a lot of it was about, kind of the war in the Middle East and that kind of thing, and what children in a war-torn country end up turning out like when they're older, right? So I think there are some parallels. And just like you said, Japanese media tends to adapt these stories based on whatever horrific shit they've got in opposition to at the time, right? Yeah, there's definitely parallels. As far as what's going on right this second.
Probably, who knows?
Well, no, okay. Right this second, maybe not. But I mean, it wasn't long ago that we were in the Middle East, right? Fighting for barrels of oil or whatever the hell it was. I think what it ends up being is you get these corporations, you get these countries that are rich, and of course the congressmen and the presidents and the dictators and whatever it is running these countries who are rich.
The kings.
Right? Where the hell's your gun at? I know you're not in war, right? But you're sending out innocent people to go and die to meet your financial needs or whatever it is. Gundam deals with a lot of that stuff, right? So yeah, I think there's some parallels.
We're going to talk a little bit about cars here.
Yeah.
So right now I'm going to pour you Brooklotic, the classic Lottie. And this is an unpeated single malt.
Scotch.
Correct.
Right?
Scotch.
This is my first time with Scotch.
No kidding.
Popping my cherry over here.
This is a good one to break in on. There's a lot of people start off with Macallan or Glenfiddich.
Okay.
Because they're very medium or light, depending on who you are, scotches, and they're easy to drink. This one tastes peaty, but it's not. But I watched a documentary on Brooklotic, and that's how I learned about this.
Yeah, I remember.
And they have a bunch of them, but Brooklotic, the classic Lottie, is I guess one of my favorite scotches to go to. And what I found is I got started on scotch, and I don't hardly ever drink it anymore. Now it's just like bourbon and tequila.
Yeah.
Is what I drink 90% of the time.
What's your favorite bourbon?
Ooh, I don't know what my favorite bourbon is. There's several I like. There's the ones that I could daily. Probably not healthy, but there's things that you could daily.
Yeah.
Which are also things you can mix in, and there's things that you could just handle every once in a while.
Yeah.
I have, I like some like Eagle Rare is good, and it's not expensive.
I've heard about it. I haven't tried it yet.
We got that downstairs. It's like $40 a bottle, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The Yeesh Taylors are good. Obviously, we talked about that downstairs. I like most losers, I like Blanton's. I like Blanton's Gold a lot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't daily it because it's hard to get and it's kind of expensive when you get it. Doesn't make it overly special.
Do you tend to like the higher proof stuff, or
I kind of like more of the I got friends that they love the barrel strength stuff. I don't really, but I find that I have a kind of a bad reaction to it. With the Asian Glow or Flush, a lot of that stuff.
What is that?
You're a chemist and you don't know about? Oh, come on! We're gonna have to open up this whole different door
about
here.
Flush? The hell is Flush?
Yeah, well, for a lot, it's actually an ALDH2 deficiency, which is an enzyme that breaks down alcohol and other things.
Right.
So when you don't have that, obviously, as your body turns alcohol into sugar, and that's why if I have a sugary drink, that's the real reason why I stopped drinking sugary alcohols. My body can't handle it because it's trying to process the sugar and the alcohol at the same time, and it becomes a bottleneck, and I start turning red sometimes, and I start, it can affect your breathing depending on what it is. Some beers do that, but not nearly as much. Some wines do that, but not nearly as much. What happens is I get really tired, and I'll swell up, and like nothing we've drank today has caused this for me, right?
Yeah.
But I'll swell up sometimes. But what happens is if I get tired, there's almost nothing I can do to stay awake.
Wow.
It's crazy. That's why I tell people, I said, I can't sit and drink. So we can go to a club.
Yeah.
And if we get a table, that's cool. But the quality of alcohol you're going to get when you have a table is shit unless you're super rich.
Yeah.
If I'm up and moving around, that effect isn't going to hit me nearly as much as if I'm sitting there. I'm likely to nod off even after one or two drinks, and people will think I'm drunk. But I'm not.
That's interesting.
But once I'm through that cycle, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I can run a marathon.
I get that way with pot. I'm sure it's
No
not
kidding.
the same mechanism. But first off, people indica sativa, that doesn't mean that's the shape of the plant. But even if it's a energetic weed or
pot.
a sleepy weed, yeah. What do you think I said?
Pop. I'm like, really? Like Coca-Cola make you tired? That's weird, but
That's
no
crazy.
judgment.
No, pot. It doesn't matter what kind of pot it is, right? They tell you it's this is an energetic strain, this is a sleepy strain, this is whatever. If I sit down and just do nothing, I'm knocked out. But if I'm out doing something, it almost like improves the experience. Like I like to hike high, right? That works great.
Sounds
no
safe.
problems. It is. You got to know how to handle your weed. No, but I never experienced that with alcohol. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, my friend Johnny, who was just in studio, is a speed hiker.
Okay.
He drives his NSX everywhere. You'll have to check that episode out.
I thought you were about to say he drives his NSX hiking, like in the rocks and shit.
No, he takes it camping. Like he literally camps out of his car.
Stock suspension?
Yeah. And he's got a van, he's got a truck, but he just prefers, and he pitches a tent next to his car, within 100 feet.
Yeah.
But he gets up and he'll hike 10, 15 miles, get back in his car and go to his next destination. And he's always high.
I've found so many potheads getting into hiking and that kind of thing. Potheads and people into psychedelics, man. You haven't lived till you've gone and seen Mount Mingus on mushrooms.
Guess I got a lot of living to do, huh?
You sure do. I'll help you live it too. You put me onto whiskey, I'll put you onto drugs.
All right, deal. So what do you think of the Brook Latte, Classic Latte?
This is good. I think I like it less than the second one that we tried. What's something 18?
So that's the Shibui 18.
Shibui 18. That's been my favorite so far. But I do notice what you're talking about. It doesn't smell peaty at all when you taste it. Because it got that kind of smoky thing going on.
Yeah, which is funny because it's not peated.
It's not quite smoke though, is it? What if you had to describe peat taste to somebody who has no frame of reference for what that is? How would you describe it?
I would say it's kind of like rye without the aftertaste.
Okay. Try again. I don't think that's quite it.
All right. Well, I'm not the chemist here. You are, and you're a rye forward guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could describe the taste. I mean, most people say it tastes like a campfire, but that's the heavily peated stuff. Again, this isn't peated.
Right.
But it reminds you a little bit of like the Lagavulin that I have downstairs, or the more peated stuff. Like the first one was peated, but slightly, right?
Yeah. This tastes similar.
It tastes similar without the peat, because they take it and they burn it, and then in the barrel, and then that's how it gets this flavor. So I would guess I would say it tastes like the smell of maybe burning damp peat moss in the middle of Scotland, which I've never done or been to.
I was going to say, that sounds appetizing. Yeah.
How would you describe it?
I think that's why I was going to ape whatever you said, because you want to say smoky. At least I do. I want to say, but it's not smoky. And burnt doesn't quite say it either. It's in my head, I'm thinking of like, I mean, a campfire was perfect, right? Like kind of a log after the fire's out.
That tries to smoke cheese and it tastes like cigarettes.
I don't know what that was about, man. But no, I like it, the image in my head is the log after the fire goes out, right? That black, craggly. That's what pops up in my head. But yeah, it's somehow a unique flavor while still familiar. How pretentious does that sound? But I like it.
So you would take a sliver of that, and then there's always like a little bit of unburnt wood underneath because it forms that crust.
Yeah.
And you would just drop it in there like you would an ice cube.
There you go.
And then take it out, and that's what you have left.
Maybe I'd do that with some Four Roses. Peat some Four Roses, but just sticking burnt wood in it.
Yeah. So you like the Four Roses. What is your go-to bourbon?
I think Four Roses. I don't tend to like lower proof whiskey, and it's not about anything other than like the mouthfeel, right? Yeah. It's you try this 80 proof stuff and it feels like water, right? It's not quite rich enough. But Four Roses has I think it's 90, 95 proof, something like it's like the single batch stuff. It's probably $40 a bottle, similar to what and it's really easy to drink. It's nice, it's smooth. On the rye side, like I said, Whistle Pig. I've really been enjoying Whistle Pig.
I have some incredibly high proof bourbon in the closet there. I can rinse out your cup.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is let's talk Hondas really quick.
Yeah.
One of the first conversations we had, because you saw the NSX in the garage, and we started talking about cars and stuff, is you back in the day you used to kind of tinker with shit, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I know I know you're not really up on whatever's going on today.
Right. Yeah. Old stuff. No. So my dad was always a car guy, and he worked on Volkswagens actually.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. Yeah, he'd say the same thing.
Yeah.
No. So anyway, yeah. As I was coming up, he would kind of get these old shitbox Civics, right? These old these B and D series engines. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bad Civics. No, they were just busted, right? And I never learned anything about body work or interior work or anything like that. But he would just really what it was. He would just teach me how to refresh an engine, right? And so as I got older and stupider, right? I think really what got me into cars before my dad what am I trying to say? My dad was showing me cars, but it didn't really land that much for me until I saw Fast and Furious. Then I was like, oh, I like that. That's cool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And do you remember those EG coupes at the very, very beginning, right? When they're robbing the truck, right? They've got three Hondas with spoon engines.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah, those things were cool as hell to me. And so anyway, I started tinkering with like B and D series engines. And then when I was 15, 16, something like that, I got interested in Preludes. And I didn't have any for myself, but my buddy had one. And it was in, the H22 that they had in those Preludes. Yep. And we were, messing with it, trying to see if we could get any, and we couldn't get any more oomph out of it. And we were stupid kids. We didn't really know what we were doing. But his dad said that, hey, I'll pay for a turbo kit, but you guys got to install it. And we did. And it was fun as hell. We didn't do any other mods, right? No suspension, no tires, no LSD, no anything like that. And it drove like shit, but it sounded cool. And once you got hooked up, it was fast, right? And so I think that was the extent of me actually like working on them. But since then, I've always just been interested in them, right? Honda and BMW. I think those are kind of the two things that I'm really kind of well versed on.
What do you like about the BMWs? Because their design language has changed quite a bit over the years.
Well, the new ones, Jesus. The G series, I know he's not really called, but the G generation 3 series I think has kind of lost me a little bit. Have you seen the renders for the new generation?
I don't know. Is it another rodent?
Another rodent? No, it's worse. It looks like an old man car, but somehow uglier. It's just I don't like them. But I think what I like about the BMWs, What's an old man car?
Yeah, give me your top 3 old men cars.
Top 3 old man cars.
And then where are you drawing the line for old man?
That's fair. Okay, the Ford, what the hell is it called? It's big. It's almost like the Ford's answer to the Monte Carlo. What is that called? Back in like the
I can't think.
80s. Anyway, any old Ford. Let's call it.
Yeah, I was gonna say any Ford.
Yeah, any old Ford.
Any old Ford. Yeah.
I think about like
the
older AMGs. It wasn't a Thunderbird. I'm gonna feel stupid trying to remember this thing, but no, I think the old Mercedes, E classes, right? Anything before the S212, E series, I think kind of gives me old man vibes. And BMW, I think like the old 7 series. Right, those are, I don't know. They all
the
feel
old
like
Lincolns, the
old man cars
big
to me.
Lincolns, the mobster Lincolns.
You said top 3. I think there's stuff that beats the Lincoln, but no, I mean, yeah, I think the mobster
Like
Lincolns,
old
the
car?
old like Chevy, the Chevelles, and that kind of thing. Yeah, they feel old,
fair.
right? But no, I think what I like about BMW is obviously their engineering, right? But I think what that really means is they just know how to make an engine smooth, fast, and no one wants to admit it, but reliable. Here's what I've learned about reliability. When people
Everyone's
say,
laughing at you right now.
No, listen. I'm gonna put y'all onto something. This is a hot take, but I promise it's true. When people talk about reliability, I think what they're talking about is how much abuse can it stand up to before it breaks. You think about a Toyota. What do people always brag about? My Toyota hit 500,000 miles, and all I had to do was change the oil. I'm glad that your Toyota could handle that much abuse, but regardless of the manufacturer, that's not how you're supposed to treat a car. And if you look at like rates of failure for Porsches and that kind of thing, well-maintained Porsches don't really break down, right? The old second gen Cayennes, right? They have a really good rate of reliability. They'll get to high miles, but you just got to keep up on the maintenance, and the maintenance is expensive. BMW, same way. Mercedes, same way. These are taxis in Germany, man. They're putting on miles
It's
like
funny
you wouldn't believe.
say that.
You know what I mean?
Those are facts.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is, and I think when you're talking about BMW, everybody has stinkers, right? Toyota has stinkers. Everybody has stinkers in their lineup. But for the most part, BMW engines are really well engineered. They're really intelligently engineered as far as, service and that kind of thing go. Not all the time, but, for the most part. And if you keep up on the maintenance, man, they run forever.
I think the problem with BMW has always been electronics.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's the thing that is the Achilles heel, I think, of the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that much, but I don't think I've ever heard of like BMWs having bad motors and shit like that. It's just
they have bad auxiliaries.
Yeah,
right? Their water pumps always break.
Oh, do they? Yeah.
Yeah. On the high performance engines that you hear about these rod bearing issues, but again, it's how much are you taking care of the car? How hard are you driving it? A big issue is people will get in their M3. I think E36 had less of an issue. E46, E90, F80, right? They get in these high performance engines. They don't let them warm up, right? They immediately pull out of the drive and start ripping on them. I got a BMW. I'm going to go fast.
Yeah.
And they throw a rod bearing and say, this engine's shit. It's like, is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, I've come to the conclusion that reliability, when people talk about it colloquially, is a matter of how much abuse can it stand up to. Don't abuse your fucking car. It's probably going to last a while, right? It's not like Nissan. Nissan, regardless of how you treat, especially the newer ones, right? Regardless of how you treat it, that transmission's going to fail at 50,000 miles. It's just how it is, right?
Yeah.
I don't think these German cars are that way.
And then we'll end on this. I mean, did you hear about the Toyota Camry recall?
No. Like a recent one?
Yeah, they sent a recall out for the people with the 90s Camrys because they figured it's time to trade them in for a new car. Yeah.
No shit.
No.
Yeah.
That's a longevity joke.
Have you heard about that Tundra? Toyota's got in their museum now. Some guy took his Tundra to like 1 million miles, and Toyota bought it back from him.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like a flex for them. I wonder if he did anything more than just change the oil.
Probably, hopefully. I
Right.
mean, yeah, you got to change out everything at that point.
Right.
About 250, 300,000 miles, I think, with most vehicles, unless it's a diesel, right? Everything gets changed out.
Even diesels.
Sean O'Bannon.
Thanks for having me, dude. Had a good
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go drink some high-proof bourbon.
It works for me.
All right.
Get fucked up off camera.
Well, another month, another closing. If you like what you heard today or like what you watched today, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Then make sure you go and tell a friend all about it. I want to thank our sponsors, Right Honda and Right Toyota, SparkForge AI from Marcus Foundry, one login, one platform, all under your control, AutoCannon officially licensed Honda and Accurate gear. Can't forget Patreon business supporter, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida, Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland, The Lucky Breaks out of Caledonia, Michigan, Beak House Small Home Design out of Ashbury, Virginia and Traverse City, Michigan, and Shaping Success Treasure Valley out of Boise, Idaho. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, you can join the Patreon at patreon.com/hardparkingpodcast, or you can become a member on YouTube. There's a buy me a coffee option there. If you want to support the show, if you get value, if this is one of your favorite shows to watch, why not support it? Special thanks to Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Grace, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, Alistair Mina, Drew Bunkley, and Dre Mullins. Questions, comments, or concerns, leave a comment below or email the show info@hardparking. Follow the show on Instagram @hardparkingpod. And make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. And I will see you guys next week.
Now it's stripping time.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Shut up!